Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to share a worksheet that I'm hoping that you will basically download and print and get a pen, turn off your cell phone. We found that we have found that multitasking is highly overrated, such as trying to push buttons and talk at the same time. So we'd really like for you to spend it's going to be about 45 or 50 minutes, depending on the questions and things like that today. And if you can spend that time with us, we promise we're going to save you many, many hours in the future of things that you don't have to do because you have eliminated, automated, or delegated many of them by the end of this session. So hopefully you've been able to download that file. It's if you go to the little dog-eared square, the one with the corner folded over, in the blue bar on the right-hand side of the screen, it's called file sharing. You'll be able to download that file, and it's just a PDF. It's one sheet front and back that you can print, and you can write on that and follow along as we go through this, and that's going to make this a lot more interesting for you. So here we go, right? Okay, how to conquer your aviation marketing to-do list. What we have found is that in our practice is that most of the time when people fail at marketing, it is not because they did something wrong, it's because something didn't get done, right? And so if we are able to actually get more done, we're going to be a whole lot more successful at marketing and everything else. And so we're going to talk about the things that marketing professionals and sales professionals typically spend a lot of time on that they don't necessarily have to. And this session was actually inspired by Tim Ferriss in his absurdly titled book, The 4-Hour Workweek. Right, John?
Yeah.
We thought this was a really good book, even though the title is incredibly misleading. He may have gotten down to a 4-hour work week. I think that may be a little overambitious for the rest of us who actually have a real job and are dependent on other people and have customers depending on us and things like that. But there are 3 factors that he goes over really, really well and talks about how to do these 3 things that have really changed the way that I do things. And we would not be able to handle the volume of customers that we have. And a lot of people ask us, how do you get everything done? And this is really how. We have to eliminate, automate, and delegate everything we possibly can. So let's talk first about eliminating. What can we eliminate? Anything you don't want to do, right? The problem with that is that your boss might get a little upset or your clients might get a little upset if you just eliminate things. So things that you can eliminate are, and this is a source of negotiation, right? Generally speaking, if someone else is the consumer of something that you do, you can't just eliminate it. You have to do some negotiation. And I neglected to do introductions. I'm Paula Williams, by the way, from ABCI. And we do marketing for aviation companies. And we kind of got started before we got started and started doing introductions in the chat room. So I apologize if you're just joining us. I'm Paula Williams with ABCI. We help aviation companies sell more products and services. And John, if you want to go next.
I'm John Williams, also with ABCI, and I work for her.
Right. And Kathy?
I'm Kathy Smith, not a Williams, just a Smith. And I also work with Paula and John. And actually, if you've been reading our invitation emails, I am the new kid on the block at ABCI. So
yay!
Just getting underway, getting to know everybody, and very happy to be here.
Right. We're really happy to have you, Kathy. And she is our implementation expert. And the reason that she's on this webinar with us is because I'm learning this myself, and especially when it comes to the delegation section, Kathy's going to be talking a lot about that and how she helps us and how she can help the rest of our clients and everybody else in the marketing universe, right? Okay, so let's first talk about reports that no one reads. If you have a report that you turn in once a week or once a month to a client or to a boss or to somebody who you suspect is not reading it. One trick is to put something in the middle of it that you know is going to upset them and see if they notice. I'm kidding about that. But seriously, if you have a report that you produce that takes time, and if nobody is reading it, or you suspect that nobody's reading it, you might want to have this negotiation with your boss or your client and say, you know what, I am spending an hour and a half putting this report together for you every week or every month. I could be spending that hour and a half doing A, B, or C, which I think would be a better use of my time and a better use toward our shared goals and things like that. Most of the time, they'll say, an hour and a half, and you have a better idea, absolutely run with it, right? Or you'll find out that someone actually is reading your reports, right? Yep. And John, you've had that go both ways, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Cool.
I've killed lots of stuff. Sometimes I used to kill stuff just to see if anybody complained. If they didn't, right. I didn't do it anymore.
Right. Just don't do it 1 week and see if anybody notices. Okay. Another thing that you can do, you can eliminate, is analytics that aren't actionable. And what I mean by that is nowadays we have access to Google Analytics and Facebook Analytics and SEMrush and Moz and all of these fabulous sources of information that we didn't have 5 or 10 years ago. And if you are Google or if you are Amazon and every 10 minutes is bringing you thousands of dollars, depending on where you stand in the search engine rankings, then you want to be on top of that every 10 minutes and you want to have a team of people that do that for you. But if you're like most of us in the aviation industry, you're only updating your website once a week or once a month. And if you're updating those analytics daily, or if you're reading them daily, you're wasting a whole lot of time, right? It's easy to get caught up in those fluctuations, kind of like day trading. John, you had a friend who was involved with day trading for a while.
Oh, good grief, yes.
He made some money, but it became a full-time obsession, and he wasn't sleeping and he wasn't eating. And
yes, that's true. He made some money, but he just he got so into it and got hooked on it that he ended up having to quit for his health.
Right. I think some of our clients do get kind of hooked on the data once they start getting analytics, and it's real easy to waste time on that and then fuss about every little nit that goes on. It's much easier to have a plan of, here are the questions that we need answers to, and here's how we get those answered once a week and once a month from the analytics, and here's what we're going to change as a result of those numbers. But if you don't have a plan and you don't have specific questions you're trying to answer, then futzing over those numbers is something I'm guilty of wasting time on, but that's something we can eliminate pretty easily. The next thing is wishful thinking, right? So, yeah, you get an email from somebody who says, I can help you write a book, or I can help you do this, or I can help you do that, but it's not on your radar. You haven't calendared the time for it. It's just another shiny object that you have the wishful thinking that you're going to get around to. But if it's not on your radar and it's not important enough to have calendared, it's real easy to waste a lot of time on those kinds of things as well. Last thing is spray and pray marketing, which is hugely wasteful of time and money. If your audience is too broad, and a lot of people who get into social media marketing especially will start doing this. They just buy ads for everybody in North America or something like that. That is incredibly wasteful of their money and their time, because they're getting lots of inquiries from people who are really not qualified or not appropriate for the product or service that you have. That's one of the cool things about the aviation industry, is we have a pretty narrow perspective on who those people are who are likely prospects for us. So we really want to concentrate on those. So we'll talk about all of those things, but first I wanted to find out what your questions are about any of the things that you can eliminate. And I know we have some questions coming in all sorts of ways.
Yep. Probably the first one would be with respect to analytics. How can I tell what the best analytics are that I should be tracking on an ongoing basis?
Okay. Good question, and that really depends on your goals. So if, let's say 70% of your sales come from your website, then your Google Analytics is going to be the most important thing to watch. So you want to take, and if you remember the 80-20 rule, that's like the Pareto principle, right? 80% of the results come from 20% of the data. So if 80% of your sales come from your website, then you want to really focus on your website, and everything else can wait. Really, as far as Facebook and other things, you can be curious about those, but you don't want to spend a whole lot of time on anything other than what brings you the most money.
Okay.
Cool.
So here's an interesting. If I create a marketing plan with due dates and editorial calendars, that seems to be fine, but we always seem to run behind. Sometimes it's the client taking too long to approve on something. What can you suggest to make sure things stay on track?
Okay. Your client is not approving, or your boss is not approving things in time. That is incredibly frustrating. And the only way to do that is to communicate better. We do that in project management software called Basecamp, where if we need an approval on something, we put the boss's name and due date with a check mark by it. And until the boss checks that off, it's going to be really obvious to everyone that he's the holdup in the situation, right? And so then we can send reminders and other things saying, this is ready to go out. We just need an approval, and send him a screenshot of that project management software showing that he's the holdup. Usually that's all it takes.
Well, most people know that there can only be one priority one. However, things get carried away. Some people like to say, no, they're both, but it can't be, because only one of two priority ones can be first.
Right. Kathy, you probably run into that sometimes, where you've got clients that say everything is priority one.
Yeah, well, I think we all live in a world where everything is needed yesterday.
Yeah.
So getting on top of those things and prioritizing is so important to both sides of the equation.
Right. Absolutely. If you have questions, feel free to throw them into the chat window, and otherwise we'll go with the ones that we've got from when we were putting this together. So any more? Or move on? What's
Another one on marketing plans. I'm
okay.
never sure what to focus on first. I get lost with just going for the sale, but I know a lot of other things need to be done to nurture the prospect. How can I make marketing easy on daily, weekly?
Okay. You know what? Let's talk about that when we talk about automating, because that sounds like something you can't eliminate, but maybe something we can automate.
Then you should continue.
Okay, let's continue. All right. And yeah, if you have a question, you can submit it anytime, and we'll try and organize where it goes in the presentation. Okay, so we've talked about eliminate. Now let's talk about automate. What can you automate? And if you're following along in your worksheet, hopefully you've written down 2 or 3 things that you can eliminate, or that you should consider for eliminating from your daily, weekly, monthly scenario, right? Okay, so automating. Here are some things that can be automated. Obviously, email marketing, tickler systems, calendars, and lead scoring, so that you know what priority your task should take based on how likely that is to result in money. There's always a saying, you want to work closest to the money. So if you've got 10 things to do, and one of them brings you revenue this week or this month, you do that one thing, right? And
they do it first.
You do that first, exactly, and then you accomplish the other things as they roll back, as far as proximity to actually getting paid, right? Yeah. Unless it's a legal requirement or the FAA, so those fall into priority 1 too. Okay, so email marketing. There are a few people out there, not many, hopefully, who are actually still using their own personal Outlook and things to send broadcast emails to more than one person, or emails to prospects and things like that. Please do not. And there are several reasons not to do that, some of which are legal. The Canadian Can-Spam Act requires that you have an unsubscribe link on your email. The GDPR in Europe is the same way. The Can-Spam Act in the United States All of those things are very important if you are sending email to more than one person. So you want to make sure that you are covering all those bases. And the easiest way to do that is to use a tool like Constant Contact, Infusionsoft, MailChimp, HubSpot, Aweber, ConvertKit. We could go on for days about what these automated platforms are. Some of them are actually free if you have a very small list, but it handles all of that for you so that you don't have to do that work. And then the second thing is you can schedule emails to go out on a regular basis. So if you've got somebody that's not ready yet, you put them on your email list. You're emailing them once a week, once a month, once a quarter, whatever it is, to make sure that they manage that correctly, right?
And so, Paula, people are asking if they can have the slideshow after the webinar. There's a way to replay this thing, right?
Yeah, we're going to have a replay available. And as far as the slides go, we can make that available in a PDF. And I can send that to the list as well. So, yes. Yes. The short answer. Okay. Okay. Tickler systems. We mentioned before Basecamp, which is the one that we use. And you can see today we have a tickler for Present Webinar. If that wasn't there, I wouldn't do it. If it's not in Basecamp, it doesn't get done. So having a tickler system really helps you make that come together. And you can automate some of these things like check-ins with with specific people, check-ins with your team about a particular project, other things like that. You can also set ticklers for yourself using some of those CRMs and other software. So if you're making a sale to someone and they say, you know what, this is great, but I'm not going to have any money until after the first of the year, you can set an appointment with them for January or set yourself just a tickler reminder to call this person the second week of January when they're back from vacation. So tickler systems, that takes a whole lot of random access memory out of your brain, so that your brain can actually function, so that you're able to do other things with your brain besides try and remember all of the things you have to do. So, those tickler systems are wonderful. Whatever system you use, just use it religiously and use it with your team. Okay. Calendar systems. The one that we use is called Time Trade. We don't advertise for them or anything else. We just use their software and it works really well. I know a lot of people use iCalendar and really like it. There's many others out there. That's one thing that takes a whole lot of time, is going the back and forth. Yes, let's schedule a meeting. Are you free on Monday? No, I'm not free on Monday. Are you free on Tuesday? Well, no, I've got this thing. Letting people see some openings in your schedule and pick from those really saves them a lot of time and saves you a lot of time as well. And then the last one is lead scoring. If you are using something along the lines of Infusionsoft or Salesforce or any of those kinds of things, I've seen people do this actually with spreadsheets. It takes a little bit of math and a little bit of wizardry with Excel to do this. But when someone interacts with your website, they get points. When someone opens an email, they get points. When someone makes a phone call to your office, they get points. Whenever they interact with you, they get a certain number of points. So the person who has 100 points is the person that you call first if you've got a list of people to call, right?
But not all CRMs do this.
That's true. I think all true CRMs do this. The email systems like Constant Contact and MailChimp maybe don't. But I know Infusionsoft Infusionsoft and Salesforce do, and I believe ConvertKit does as well. So those are really important things. And then that also helps you prioritize, who should I be spending my time doing research for and, returning their calls first, which doesn't mean you ignore your 60 over here. That just means that you call them fourth on your list. So you'll just have to get through that list faster. Okay, so questions about things you can automate. You had one question that you asked last time, right? Let's see if we answered it. I don't remember it.
I'm not sure what to focus on first. I get lost doing for the sale, but know a lot of things need to be done to nurture. How can I make marketing easy?
Okay. So focus on number one, the thing closest to the money, and then all other things being equal. For example, you've got 6 clients or 6 potential prospects to pay attention to. Then you want to use your lead scoring to prioritize those.
Yeah, assuming that you've got a CRM that allows lead scoring.
Right. If not, you're just going to have to use whatever information you have to prioritize your tasks.
And then the first question, or the next question is, what do you suggest for a marketing mail program? How many did you send out, and what do you send in them?
Okay. So that really depends on what you're trying to accomplish. So some people send like a weekly tip of the week, something along those lines. I know Tanis Aircraft, they have preheat solutions for aircraft, and they send tips on cold weather flying to their clients once a week during the cold part of the year. And that goes over really, really well because, people don't remember you can't leave a can of soda in your co-pilot's seat in freezing weather and come back to an airplane in the same condition that you left it, right? Because that can of pop is going to explode. So it doesn't have anything to do with their product, but it has to do with their customers. Their customers fly in cold weather. They're the Alaska bush pilots of the world. And so they do a weekly tip for those kind of people that's really useful. And then that's something that they can use to also sell their products, let people know about their promotions and other things like that. If you can't do a weekly tip, you could do like a monthly or quarterly, state of the market. Here's what's going on in the market. Jean Clow of Great Circle Aviation does a really nice update each month on, here's the state of the market and what's going on and whether it's good for buyers or sellers or both, and which aircraft are selling, that kind of thing. So as long as it's useful, I think you should email people as often as you can, as often as you have time for.
Okay. This one keeps a spreadsheet on when to contact the prospect next. The concern is that an automated system will be hard to use.
Okay.
So what do you use?
I think a spreadsheet's hard to use because then you have to look up all the information and update the spreadsheet all the time. I use Infusionsoft, and there is a learning curve with that. I don't know that I would recommend it for a really small company. I would think something like ActiveCampaign or ConvertKit might be easier for a really small company that doesn't have a lot of time to put into training and things like that. Kathy, do you have a favorite that you've worked with people for?
I like ActiveCampaign. I've also worked in Infusionsoft. I think ActiveCampaign and probably Constant Contact are pretty straightforward to learn.
Yeah.
They just, everything these days has templates in it. You can just basically, sort of set things up just using a workflow that they set up for you, and you can basically figure most of that stuff out pretty quickly, even on your own. And then, of course, all these software systems also have lots of tutorials.
Yeah. So. Right.
And I don't know if you saw the question that Vanessa has put up.
What was the question?
Yeah. We're selling services, not products. What would you recommend?
Okay. Well, anything.
So do we.
Yeah, it's about your customer. It's not about you, and it's not about your products, right? So what information could you provide to your customers that would be worthwhile for them to open an email from you once a week? If you're selling insurance, maybe you want to talk about risk management, how to keep your airplane safe, how to keep your hangar safe, put the edge covers, like from Trisoft and things like that on all of your antenna and edges and things. Tell everybody, eyes up in the hangar. Safety tips are always good for an insurance company. If you are selling maintenance, let's see, Turbines Inc. has some really good tips about, if your PT6A engine doesn't start, here are 4 reasons why it might not start, and here's what you do about each of those 4 reasons. So there's always something that you can provide, even if it is a service.
True.
Yeah. Anything else?
What's the most economical online calendar system?
Online.
And easy.
Okay. Easy and economical don't always go together. I think all of them will cost you a little bit. I'm not sure how much we're paying for time trade. I think it's a couple $100 a year. So it's not super cheap, but it's not terribly expensive either. And compared to the amount of time that I would spend, uh, this may sound horrible, but I would much rather spend money on automation than on people. And I'll tell you why, because if I spend money on automation, then I know exactly what it's doing, and I know exactly what I've delegated it for it to do and everything else. So if it is something that can work that way, we make that happen. If it is not something that can work that way, if it's something that requires intelligence, then of course you use people. So I do these in order, first eliminate, second automate, third delegate. And then fourth, as a last resort, I do it myself, right? Um, so we have lost John, but that's okay. I don't know if there are any other questions for Automate, but we'll carry on, soldier on without him, and tell him what he missed later, right? So let me find my mouse. I think we may have a little bit of a technical issue here. All right. So delegate, next favorite subject, right? And this is something that I just got into this year with you, Kathy. When we first met, I know you gave me some really good suggestions of things that I should not be doing myself. It really convinced me that I should, as control freak as I am, start delegating more tasks, right?
Right.
Right. Some of those you and I have talked about doing are project management, administrative communications, copywriting, market research, sales research, and modifying sales presentations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll let you go through each of those as you see them, and how we have worked together, in some ways on some of these things.
Well, it's been interesting because you have already have a project management system in place, so I came into that. But a lot of other people don't use project management systems, and I think it's really important to do that, especially when you've got what I call a lot of moving pieces. And anybody that's doing marketing has got a lot of moving pieces. So everything from the smallest menial task to presenting to a potential customer is really important to the business. And yes, you have to prioritize, and that's where that all comes in. So using project management systems allow you to set out those tasks, set the priorities, the dependencies, the due dates, the people, assign the tasks to the people. And every single day you can see exactly what's going on. And you're communicating through that system. So your team or whoever else, even if it's only you and one other person, it's really handy to have something like that in place. And when you have an overall marketing plan, you can just plug in those different tasks, whether they're daily, weekly, quarterly, or whatever. And it really helps you stay on track.
Right. So if we had like a really big project like writing a book, which I think everybody should have as a maybe a long-term goal over the course of a year, you can write a book and become an authority in your area of expertise. So Vanessa, that service that you're talking about, you could be the one that wrote the book on that service. And but that's a big project.
It is a big project, and just the writing alone is enough to take up your time. So you don't want to be dealing with trying to find a copy editor to make sure that your copy is of high quality, and that you're talking to the industry, the way you want to, and your potential clients. And then there's people like designers. Are you going to create an ebook? Is it going to be a print book? Are you going to sell it on Amazon as a Kindle book? Those kinds of decisions. And research. Of course, research is going to fall into that if you need to do some research on some certain particular areas, and depending on what the premise is of your ebook. So there's a lot of moving pieces there. There's a lot that someone else can take off your plate. And when all of that is taken care of, you can focus on just the writing part.
Exactly. And a really neat thing is if you've never written a book before, there's a lot that goes into that you might not know. You know your subject, but you don't necessarily know how to get an ISBN number and all of those crazy things. And Kathy does. So you can say, tell me what I need to do and manage this project. And, tell me what decisions I need to make so that I can control this project, but you can take that off my plate and make sure it gets done.
Exactly.
Right. Cool.
Well, it seems as though that webinar Jen didn't like me and it knocked me out, so I'm back.
Happy to see you, John. We were just talking about you.
I'm sure you were.
All right. Cool. All right. So
the question is, what system would you recommend? I think she meant what product management system do you use?
Project management system? We use product. That's interesting. Product management is actually a whole field of marketing that is basically from the design of the product all the way through to deciding when it's obsolete and you have to build another version of that or retire that product. So if it's product management that you want to talk about, I think we need to have another webinar about that. If it is project management that you are intending to talk about, then what we use is a product called Basecamp. Now I'm doing it. By 37 Signals, and we've used that for a number of years, and we've tried many other things. We've tried SharePoint, we've tried Slack, we've tried a number of other things. What I like about Basecamp is that your file storage and your tasks are all in one place. So if I have a bunch of tasks about producing videos, I can throw all of the files that somebody needs into a Basecamp folder and then write all of the tasks that go along with it, and they just go to one place. Whereas if with Slack or something like that, I have to have a Dropbox, and then I have to have Slack, and then I have, people have to go here and there and everywhere. So cool.
Yeah, the other thing that's great about project management is that all of your communications are located in that system. So you could be, even though you can email each other about what's going on, if you're using Basecamp or a project management system properly, you are sending messages and updates and everything through that system, so it can all be captured and it's centralized. And that's the main reason why you want to use a project management system, to centralize your operations.
Yeah, absolutely.
She did mean project management, so you covered it.
Okay, cool. All right. And then administrative communications, Kathy, in the aviation industry, people expect a very warm human touch. So we can't just automate everything and expect our customers to be happy, because they expect to be very well taken care of. So a lot of those administrative communications are things that you can handle in a warm, fuzzy, intelligent way that I can't get software to do.
Yeah, exactly. You still can't get rid of the human element, right?
Right.
And when you're trying to build customer relationships, that is so important. So, if you get overwhelmed by email and just wanting to, keep that kind of interaction going with your potential clients and clients, sometimes it's nice to be able to hand off a little bit of that email management, depending on what exactly you want that person to do. They can be doing anything from just checking and organizing the email to, responding on your behalf. So, and then they can take on a bunch of other projects, social media, some minor stuff like that. There's so many areas, and even though you might be using an automated calendar system to set up appointments, you still want somebody to follow up and check in that person is still going to be available on that day, and that they have everything they need to be prepared for the meeting with you, and vice versa. So when you have all of that taken care of by someone else, it really frees up a lot of time and a lot of mental angst over how you're going to juggle it all, right?
Oh, man. Let me tell you, that is absolutely true. Okay, and then there's a lot of writing that people need to do these days for social media and for their blog and for, maybe sales letters, responses to emails, and people expect those to be pretty high quality these days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So you cannot sort of shirk that communication responsibility, which all goes back to building relationships. So whether you're writing sales, marketing material, or thought leadership material like blogs and social media posts, you're trying to show an online presence that's very high quality to your clients. So you're not just, posting random things. There's a plan behind it.
Yeah.
And there are, timelines involved and reasons why you're posting certain kinds of materials, and vice versa. When you're working on sales marketing material, it's the same kind of thing. So again, if you're able to either hand off something like that and all you have to do is write it and have somebody edit it and send it out, that frees up your time, or the opposite, where you have someone write it for you and then you just simply edit it and say, okay, take it away.
Right. Kathy, your accent makes me smile. I have to tell you that. My accent. Yeah, it's so fun because my mom is from Minnesota, so it just makes me smile. So I think that's wonderful. Anyway, I didn't mean to embarrass you. I just thought that was cool.
It's less Canuck accents that throws everybody off.
Oh, I think it's really, really neat. And I know I have an accent too, the Western United States, but that is just fine.
Yes, I'm from the Great White North, only it's not white where I am.
It's kind of gray, sounds like. Cool. Okay, marketing research. This is something that people don't do enough of, and usually because they either, one, don't know how, or two, don't have time. So you can help with that too.
Well, that's another area where, gathering intelligent data on your prospect or client is very important to be able to customize your sales and marketing messaging to them. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking at a group of people, sort of a target market, you want to know what's up with them, where they are, what they're doing, what their companies are like, and what products they have, and how you're going to match what you do to a need that they have. So again, you don't want to be doing all that time. It's a little bit time consuming, and you're concentrating on other higher level customer driven tasks. So if you can hand off something like that to someone so that you can just look at the report.
Yeah.
And then, customize your next sales presentation. It's like, hey, just saved you a whole bunch of time.
Oh, absolutely. Right. I mean, just imagine how much better your marketing communications are going to be if you know exactly who you're talking to and know everything about them. And then more specifically, once you have an appointment or a prospect who's on the hook, if you know everything there is to know about that person, that really helps you do a better job as a salesperson.
Exactly. And I think we're sort of leading into that in the sales research. So the same kind of thing, and just making sure that you're talking to them and their needs first before you talk about yourself.
Right. And we always say sales presentations should be 70% about the customer and 30% about you or your product or your service or, whatever. And that 70%, where are you going to come up with that information, right?
Exactly. And so you want to be really well researched and prepared.
Absolutely. Great. So questions about things that you can delegate. And hopefully, as you've been going through this this webinar, you've been writing down some things on your worksheet about things that you can eliminate, things you can automate, and things you can delegate. So questions.
Well, about delegation, but the
questions about anything.
They log into a million different sites on a daily basis, so wouldn't having to log into a project management system be one other frustration?
I don't think so. Basecamp is on my phone right here. I never log into it. I never log out of it. It is the one thing that all of my customers know that they can get to me. As long as you only have one thing, I think, if you had Basecamp and Slack and what are some of the others, Asana and, a million other programs that all of your different clients were using, that would be a huge pain in the neck. But if you only have one, and if all of your work goes into that one, then the most important thing is just to choose carefully, right?
Okay, now here's the delegation question.
Okay.
What's the best way to determine what you can give someone else to do, and how do you manage that person? Kathy, what do you think?
Well,
I'm just starting.
It's a pretty loaded question because it's very sort of general and broad. But usually, what I do is that I talk to someone about what's on their plate right now. We're not talking about last month, next month, whatever. What's on your plate today, and what are the top 3 priorities you have, and then sort of look at that and what could possibly be delegated out of those tasks, and just sort of make a list. I would start with the top 3 and then maybe go from there. But, top 5, top 10, whatever, even when you're going through your day, you can be going, hey, wait a minute, I just spent, an hour doing internet research that I didn't need to do. I could possibly give that to somebody else. I just spent, 20 minutes trying to write a customized email to this prospect, and I really need to get to my next meeting, but I got to get this off because I promised it to them. Well, like I say, it still goes back to all those moving pieces.
Yeah.
Someone else is doing that stuff for you. You have the space to do what you need to do, and so it's just a matter of looking at what's going on and then deciding what those tasks could be.
Yeah.
And then in order to manage that person, if that person is, experienced in that role, you don't need to manage them. They're going to be proactive, and they're just going to update you on what they're doing and check in all the time so that you know what's going on. So that also, you don't have to worry about that whole thing. And then if you have team members, that person can also be managing those other people.
True. And I think my thought process since we started working together has been to anything that I do more than once, I think about how could I get Kathy to do this? And how could I get this into Basecamp and put Kathy's name on it instead of mine? So, those are things that I think about delegating. If I'm doing things that are things that I could teach someone else because there is a process behind it and things like that. So,
yeah, so learning the process is really important, and that person might be able to improve on the efficiency of that process.
Yeah.
And of course, understanding your business is totally the first thing you need to do to understand why things need to be delegated and how.
Right. So we're actually getting some questions about, how much does Basecamp cost? How much does it cost to get an assistant like Kathy? Some other things like that. So we're going to get into some of those things. And this is part of the reason that we're doing this webinar is because we want to offer some of this to folks who can maybe not, ABCI got started because we work with customers who maybe can't afford a full sales and marketing department, but need full service sales and marketing services, right? So what we've put together are some packages where we are taking some things like some of Kathy's time, Basecamp, some other products and services that we know small aviation companies need, small to medium-sized aviation companies need, and making that more affordable. So let me show you our sales and marketing lab, which includes Basecamp and some of Kathy's time, among other things. The most expensive thing that's included in our marketing lab is what we call office hours. And what that is an hour a month with John and myself, or John or myself, depending on what kind of expertise you need for your business, where we talk about your strategy, your obstacles that are coming up this month, your objectives for this month, and this can be about sales or marketing, anything that's going on that you need help with. and putting a strategy together and then holding you accountable the next month when we meet again. So it's kind of like when you go to the dentist and you brush your teeth like crazy the week before you go to the dentist. A lot of our folks will hurry up and get all of their sales and marketing tasks done before they have to meet with us. And I know that's what they do. And that's okay. At least they're getting it done, right? So people who go to the dentist are probably healthier, partly because they know they're going to have to sit in the chair, right? Office hours are a whole lot more fun than that. We usually have a really good time. Another thing you get is our VIP lounge, which is our private Facebook group. And there you get to associate with all of our other clients. And we do things like Follow Fridays, where everybody gets to post one thing that they want everybody to follow or comment on or engage with, and those kinds of things. So you get those economies of scale. And you also get a bunch of other brains in the room for people who have done different things and maybe tried some things and get an idea of what's worked and what hasn't worked in the aviation industry. Because a lot of folks are coming from real estate or automotive sales, or they're not really sales or marketing people at all. They were pilots or product engineers and things that come into a sales role accidentally, right?
Just be aware when you get in the Facebook, these guys, you ask a question, they'll tell you whether they know it's sugar-coated. They're going to tell it like it is.
Yep.
Which is what you want.
Oh, yeah. And they're great guys. Everybody in there, I really enjoy all of our clients right now. They're really good people, and they're so helpful to each other, which makes a big difference. You also get our book club. With all of that time that you're going to be saving, you have time to actually do some thinking and strategy, and that's what you really should be doing. So we provide one book a month, and we do a book club discussion in the Facebook group, and then we also do a podcast about that book as well. So the last one we did was the Sales Survival Handbook, which was not a fabulous book, but it was educational reading it and talking about it, right?
Yes.
You will get our next social media guide for aviation professionals that has the latest data from the aviation industry about what social media people are using, what hashtags they're using, different tasks you can accomplish using social media and things like that. You'll get our... Sorry?
That's the old version. It's 2016. It says you get the current version.
Exactly. You'll get our 2019 updated version. Same thing with the calendar. You'll get our 2019 calendar with all of the book club discussions and people's birthdays and like the NBAA regional forums and other things like that marked on the calendar so that we all are on the same page. And we also do parties. We have a really good time with our folks. We have a breakfast every NBAA every fall, and invite as many of our clients as can make it. That's about the only time we get people in the same room, and we almost never get everybody in the same room, but at least we try. So that's always fun. And then you also get Base Camp, which is, we use it for our customers, and then you can also assign tasks to the other people in your company having to do with those projects and things. That's yours to use for as long as we're doing business together and everything else. So it's quite a number of things. And if you turn over that worksheet that you printed out, you'll find all of these things outlined in terms of what they would cost in the real world versus what they cost when we use our economies of scale and put that together for you into our sales and marketing lab. So questions about anything about the Sales and Marketing Lab, about things that you can eliminate, automate, delegate, anything else? Crickets? Are we hearing crickets?
How do you hand off project to someone if it's midstream? And won't it take too long to train them in how you do things?
Any thoughts on that, Kathy?
Well, that's another one that's fun. Like when I say if you've got someone who's experienced project manager, they'll know exactly how to come in and hit the ground running.
Right.
So if that person is not experienced, you might have some issues that might take up more of your time than you want once you start to delegate that person. because it'll be, everything will feel like a little bit like it's too much in flux. So there's kind of a trade-off there.
Right, exactly. And one thing that I didn't mention, and I can't believe I didn't do this, the reason that we're doing this webinar is to introduce Kathy and also to mention that when you join our Sales and Marketing Lab, you also get an hour of Kathy's time as an implementation expert on whatever it is that you need done. So, that hour a month is probably going to add up to more than 1 hour of your own time because she knows how to implement stuff and get things done. So that is free with to our Marketing Lab members that join before the end of the year. So that's going to be open through December 31st. And I know it's the holidays and everybody is planning crazy stuff for 2019. So if you had an extra hour a month during 2019, just think about how much more productive you could be, right?
Yep.
Was that explained well enough? Did that make sense?
Oh, I think so.
To me.
Okay, cool. Any other questions?
Nope. Not so far.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate you being here. And we will see you in a replay. We're going to publish the replay, and then we'll also publish the slides. I'll show you how to get those from our website. We'll have those available for download in the next couple of days. So thanks for joining us, and we will see you. We try to do one webinar each quarter, so we'll let you know what the next one's going to be, and it'll probably be in the February timeframe, right?
You have one more slide.
I have one more slide. Yes, I do. You're absolutely right. What was I thinking? Thank you. Thank you for being here. Great. All right. Talk to you later, and we'll see you on the other side.
You bet.
Bye now.